The cruelest words I ever heard about my son were spoken before he was even born. I was 7 months pregnant the day my family broke my heart. It was supposed to be a celebration. A baby shower, ribbons, pastel balloons, corny diaper games, and all that stuff you see in Pinterest boards. My mother insisted on throwing it. She said it would make things look better, which in hindsight should have been a red flag the size of a maternity gown. I didn't want it. Not because I didn't want to celebrate my baby, God I did, but because I already knew the truth. Half the people on the guest list didn't think this baby was a blessing. They thought he was a mistake, a scarlet letter under my skin, a living reminder of what they considered failure. His name was Micah. I had picked it out early. I would whisper it to myself at night when the loneliness pressed in hard. Micah, my son, my everything. Jaden, his father, wasn't around, but not for the reason they thought. He didn't disappear. He didn't abandon me. He was pushed away. By them. They said he wasn't husband material. No degree, no fancy job, no polished pedigree. But what he did have was patience and a heart that cracked wide open when I told him we were having a baby. He cried. And that was the moment I knew he would have stayed, if my family hadn't slammed the door shut in his face. The shower, the venue. Was this rented banquet room inside a local country club? Too big, too polished, too fake. Plastic smiles greeted me at the door. My cousin Brianna was already halfway through a mimosa and managed to hug me while barely making eye contact with my belly. My Aunt Marianne gave me one of those air kisses near the cheek, like she was scared pregnancy was contagious. "You look healthy," she said, which was probably her version of kindness. My mother, Diane, stood in the middle of the room, directing. Everything like a conductor at an orchestra of obligation. "Smile, Clara. Everyone's here for you." Lies. They were here because appearances mattered to her, because hiding shame behind cake and pastel streamers was easier than facing the truth. I nodded and smiled. For Micah. I made it to the third present before I heard them. I'd stepped into the kitchen to breathe for a moment, to cool down. Someone had forgotten to turn off the hot plate, and I could smell burnt spinach dip. That's when I heard the voices. Low, sharp, too casual. "She's actually keeping it?" It was Brianna. No surprise. "Oh, please, you think she'd give it up now? She's probably hoping for child support at best." But we both know how that ends. That was Marianne. Then a third voice. My grandmother's best friend, Janice. Honestly, feel bad for the child. Starting life without a father? That's a bastard's curse if I've ever heard one. Laughter. Real, awful laughter. And then Grandma's voice. Soft. Clear. It's not what I wanted for her. But I suppose she has to learn the hard way. No defense, no pushback, just that. I froze. My hand trembled on the kitchen counter. I couldn't breathe. I stared at a tray of cupcakes like it was the last stable thing in the world. I wasn't supposed to hear what they said, but I did. And the thing about truth is, once you hear it, you can't unhear it. You can't pretend it didn't echo through your chest like a thunderclap. The leaving. I left the shower quietly. No scene, no screaming. Just one look at my mother and a polite lie about feeling lightheaded. She didn't stop me. She just waved me off like I was being dramatic again. I got home, took off the flower crown she'd made me wear, and cried so hard I almost couldn't breathe. I sobbed into Micah's tiny onesie, the one I'd bought at Target with the words "born," loved across the chest. But at that moment, I didn't feel loved. I felt erased. I felt ashamed, and I hated them for making me feel that, but more than anything, I hated myself for letting it happen. That night, Jaden called. We hadn't spoken much since things had gotten complicated. My mother had intercepted his letters, told him I didn't want him around, and told me that he'd walked away. We were both lied to. But somehow he still called. "I don't care what they say," he told me. "I've been writing him letters, one for every birthday, one for every year they took from me." That night, I decided 2 things. I would raise Micah with truth, not shame. I would never let anyone make him feel like he didn't belong. And one day, he would know everything. The loudest truths are the ones we carry quietly for years, until the moment they erupt. Micah was born on a rainy Sunday afternoon. It was the kind of storm that rattled windows and shook tree branches. But when he came out, eyes wide, fists clenched, letting out the smallest gasp of breath, it felt like the whole world fell silent just for him. And for a while it was just the two of us. No Jaden, no family visits. No grandma holding his fingers or great aunts making baby books. They had all stepped away, some out of judgment, others out of cowardice. And I let them. I built a fortress around Micah, one lullaby at a time. He grew up on love, not lies, but kids are smarter than we give them credit for. The letters, Jaden kept his promise. Every year a letter arrived. Not to our home. No, he knew better than to risk interception. They went to a P.O. box I'd opened, just for this reason. And every year, on Micah's birthday, I would take the envelope, place it in a wooden box under my bed, and mark it with a number, year 1, year 2, year 3. Each one sealed, unread. For Micah, when he was ready. When he was 10, he found the box. I caught him sitting on my bed, one envelope open in his hands. His mouth was slightly open, eyebrows furrowed. Not in confusion, but in realization. "This is from my dad," he said. I nodded. Sat beside him. "I don't get it. Grandma said he didn't want me." There it was. That poisonous seed they'd planted. Still growing. "Sweetheart," I said, "I'm so sorry. That wasn't true. Your father never stopped loving you. They made it very hard for him to be here." Micah didn't cry, he didn't scream, he just nodded, once, and kept reading. The quiet years Micah grew into himself in a quiet, powerful way. He never caused trouble, never needed attention. But there was a fire in him, slow burning. He asked questions that cut through walls. He saw through people like glass. At 13, he asked, "Why would a family lie about someone who loved me?" I didn't have the answer. So I gave him the truth. The baby shower. The whispers. The word bastard used like it was a curse. The way they left us to fend for ourselves. Micah listened. Then he went to the box under my bed and added something to it. A small, leather-bound notebook of his own. From that day forward, he wrote something every year. But unlike his father's letters, he didn't show them to me. He said, "I'm saving this for when the time is right." A message in the making one day, his 15th birthday, Jaden sent something different. It wasn't just a letter. It was a small folded audio chip, sealed in an envelope with Micah's name written in perfect cursive. "Play this only when you're ready," it said. Micah didn't play it right away. He held onto it, pocketed it like it was made of fire. And memory. That same year, Grandma invited us to her annual family dinner for the first time in over a decade. Micah looked at the invitation. Then at me, "You want to go?" "I don't know," I said truthfully. "Do you?" He smiled. "Yeah, I think I do." There was something behind his eyes. Calm. Sharp. Final. That night, he went back to the wooden box. Took out a letter marked Year 1 and another labeled Year 16, even though it hadn't arrived yet. Then he opened his own notebook and began writing. He was crafting something bigger than me, bigger than them, something no one saw coming. The calm before the reckoning in the weeks leading up to Grandma's event, Micah was quieter than usual. But it wasn't the silence of fear. It was the silence of someone planning something sacred. He asked if I still had the guest list from the baby shower. I did. It was buried in a scrapbook I never finished. He studied it like a war map, circled names, underlined a few. Then one day he said, "Do you think Aunt Marianne still thinks I don't know what she called me?" I froze. "How do you know about that?" "I read your journal, Mom. The one you thought you'd hidden. The one with the, line, 'They called my unborn son a bastard.' I heard it with my own ears. I felt a wave of shame, but also something else. Pride. Because he didn't say it with anger. He said it with focus. Micah wasn't seeking revenge with fists or fire. He was sharpening the truth, preparing it like a blade made of words and silence. They broke something the day they laughed at my name, he told me. Now I get to show them what survived. Sometimes the most elegant revenge is simply showing up, unbroken, unbothered, and undeniable. The invitation came in cream-colored cardstock with a gold-embossed border. My mother's handwriting was on the envelope. Family dinner celebrating our legacy, it read. Legacy. The irony wasn't lost on me, but Micah, now 16 and standing a few inches taller than me, held the invitation in one hand like it weighed nothing and said, "Let's go remind them what legacy really looks like." The dinner, it was held in the same country club where the baby shower took place. Same polished marble floors, same cold chandeliers, same walls that held whispered judgments. Micah wore a black button-up shirt, with sleeves rolled to his elbows, no tie. No flashy statement, just clean confidence. I hadn't been back to that building in 16 years. Every step felt like walking through wet cement. But Micah? He moved like a current was pulling him forward. Calm. Focused. We walked in, late on purpose. The room fell quiet the moment people saw us. Aunt Marianne actually gasped. Brianna nearly spilled her wine. My mother, Grandma Diane, stood frozen by the buffet table, her smile flickering like a dying light bulb. Micah walked straight to the head table and smiled. "Hey, Grandma," he said smoothly. "Mind if I speak for a minute?" There was a pause. Too stunned to say no, she nodded. He took the mic. The speech Micah didn't raise his voice. He didn't shout, but the silence that settled over the room as he spoke was deafening. 16 years ago, this family threw a baby shower for a child you thought shouldn't be born. That child was me. Some of you whispered that I was a mistake. Others said it louder, called me names before I could even breathe. You thought I'd grow up broken, angry, ashamed. But what you didn't expect was that I'd grow up hearing the truth, not from you, but from letters, from a father you erased. He wrote me one every year. Stories, memories, apologies for a distance he didn't choose. And this year, he sent me something different. He reached into his pocket and held up a tiny audio chip. The crowd shifted uneasily. My hands trembled as he pressed play. The voice from the past, Jaden's voice, came through the speaker. Older, more weathered, but still gentle. "Micah, if you're hearing this, it means you're ready. I wasn't allowed to hold you. Wasn't allowed to teach you to ride a bike or tell you how proud I was when you learned to read. But I never stopped writing to you. And I never stopped loving you. Your mother is the bravest person I've ever met. She fought for your dignity when others tried to bury it under shame. And if you're standing in front of the people who did that, don't let them rewrite the story. You were never a mistake. You were the moment my life had meaning." There was no sound in the room when the message ended. Not a cough, not a breath, just silence. Then Micah stepped forward. "Now I have a message of my own," he said. He took out the small leather notebook he'd been writing in for years. "This is what you never knew about me, about us, and it's time you listened." He read, "To the aunt who said my birth was a curse. You didn't see me teach myself piano at age 9, or watch my mother work 2 jobs so I could join the school band. To the cousin who laughed at my name. You never saw me ace every math test or help my classmates when no one else would. To the grandmother who smiled while others mocked me. You never earned that title. Grandmothers protect, they don't stay silent. And to the father you erased, I found him anyway." He closed the notebook, looked around the room. "You tried to bury me in shame, but I grew into something stronger. And tonight, you don't get to pretend you built me. I built myself with her." He pointed to me. "And with him." He tapped the audio chip. Aftermath, no one applauded. Not because they didn't want to, but because they didn't know how to process it. Micah handed the mic back and walked out, not even waiting for dinner. I followed him, but not before pausing. By my mother's chair, she was pale, speechless. "I hope you're proud," I said. "Not of him, but of what your silence created." We left before dessert was served. and we never went back. You don't inherit legacy. You build it. After the speech, the car ride home was silent, but not heavy. Micah stared out the window, a faint smile resting on his face. I glanced at him, waiting for the emotional fallout, the tears, the regret. But they never came. Instead, he said quietly, "I don't think I ever want to see them again." And I didn't blame him. That night, he took the wooden box, the one filled with all those unopened letters, and brought it to the kitchen table. For the next 3 hours, he read every single one. Year 1 to year 16. Some were long. Some were just a paragraph. Some were tear-stained. All were from a man who had been forced to love from a distance. When he finished, he looked at me. I want to meet him. The father reunited. I hadn't spoken to Jaden in years. Not directly. Just quiet holiday updates. Silent forwarded emails. I knew where he was, but he'd never overstepped. Not once. When I called him, I barely got out the words. "Micah wants to see you." There was silence on the other end. Then a choked reply. I've been waiting 16 years to hear that." They met at a small park by a bench overlooking a pond. Jaden arrived first. He was older, grayer, thinner. But the moment Micah walked up, they both froze, like time itself had been holding its breath. No one said hello. They just hugged. Micah later told me it wasn't awkward. It was like I walked into a room where I'd always belonged. Grandma's apology. Weeks after the dinner, a letter arrived in our mailbox. No return address. But I knew the handwriting. Inside was a single page. "Dear Micah, I was wrong. There's no excuse for what I allowed to happen. I believed lies, and I let pride bury my love under judgment. I hope someday you can forgive me. Not for me, but for yourself. Love." Grandma Diane. Micah read it, folded it neatly, then placed it in the wooden box with the rest of the letters. "I might forgive her," he said, "but not today." And that was enough. The graduation day, Micah graduated top of his class. Valedictorian. Scholarships lined up like dominoes. But just before his speech, he made a last-minute change. He stood on the stage looking out into a sea of families, some cheering, some crying. He looked at me, then at Jaden sitting right beside me. Then he said, "They say it takes a village to raise a child, but sometimes the village is the reason the child has to raise himself. I was called a mistake before I had a name. I was called a burden before I took my first step. But I'm here today because my mother taught me to stand even when the world wanted me to kneel. And because my father never stopped writing, even when the world told him to disappear. This diploma is for them, and for every child told they don't belong. You do, and your story is not over." Epilogue. The legacy. We choose. Micah went on to study law, said he wanted to defend the truth the way it had once defended him. Jaden eventually moved back to the same city. They see each other every Sunday. Sometimes they build furniture together. Sometimes they just sit in silence and exist. Grandma Diane sends birthday cards now. No return address, no expectations. Just silence dressed as remorse. Micah still keeps the wooden box. But now it's filled with more than just old letters. There's a new notebook inside, one he started writing for his future children. He titled it, "In Case They Ever Try to Lie." About you, because legacy isn't inherited. It's built letter by letter, word by word, choice by choice. If you found this story moving, powerful, or just plain satisfying, please don't forget to like the video to support more content like this. Subscribe for more epic stories of karma, betrayal, and ultimate redemption. And share this video with someone who needs to remember, your story is never defined by those who tried to erase you.